This is a Main Hustle Media podcast.
Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Jackie O and you're listening to Militantly Mixed.
Yo, this is Rashani from the Single Simulcast. And when I'm not making you laugh or making up parody songs, I'm kicking back, listening to Militantly Mixed.
Konnichiwa, what's up, cousins? Welcome to Militantly Mixed, the podcast about race and identity from the mixed race perspective. I am your Sir Auntie, Charmaine Fury, and today I'm not actually going to talk a lot in this intro because this episode is a special extra episode this week in which the team that planned Free to Be Fest, of which I was also a member of, came on to kind of have a little debrief discussion about everything that we loved about planning the fest and what the fest was like, for those of you who didn't get a chance to be there. The thing is, you know, I like to talk, and everybody in this recording likes to talk. So sometimes we veered off topic, and there was also a couple of times where we had some audio issues. So when that happens, you're going to hear this little ditty. And then you'll know that we are just transitioning into a different part of the conversation, and either audio issues and or us meandering in conversation is what took place in between. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the planning committee cousins of the Free to Be Fest. Today, I am joined by the team that brought you Free to Be Fest 2025. You've already heard from Dr. Jen before and from Sarah. The other member of our team you hadn't heard from yet, Joy, is on as well. So I'm going to have everybody reintroduce themselves or introduce themselves for the first time. And then we're going to talk about what happened, like all our joy and happiness around Free to Be Fest. Starting with Dr. Jen, reintroduce yourself.
All right. Hey, I am Dr. Jennifer Noble, and I am, of course, psychologist, coach for parents with mixed race kids, and organizer for the Free to Be Fest.
Founder,
yes. All of those things. Yes.
Take your credit.
Thank
you. All right. Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Schumann. I am one of the organizers of the Free to Be Fest. I originally found out about the Free to Be Fest in its first year and was a filmmaker. So I am a creative and an organizer. And I'm really excited for year 3.
And Joy.
Hello, I'm Joy, or my name is Joy. I'm the vibes bringer. Representation for ADA compliance due to my wheelchair use. I bring, some form of ancestral magic over the group. I do a lot of things, but at the end, I end up becoming the Wizard of Oz, bringing the smoothness and the ambience with a gigantic playlist, 14 hours of mixed race artists playing on during the fest. I'm basically a Free to Be Fest enthusiast, and nice to meet you all.
You did bring the vibes that day. This year, Free to Be Fest was in West LA at the Citizens of the World School in Mar Vista. And we had an all-day platform versus just the film festival, which was what we did last year. So I imagine every year something new or whatever will get added. But we had a very long but really joyful day. I think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
long day, but it was fun. It was fun, but it
Yeah.
was a long day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great. So I wanted to bring everybody on the show to kind of debrief for the audience, whether you got to attend or didn't, because you've been hearing about it on the show for the last few weeks. So I wanted to wrap up all of those episodes that we did about Freedom Beat Fest together as a team. I think I already told people who've listened that I wasn't involved in planning the first year either because I was heavy in my grief at the time, but I did attend. I managed to attend and told Jen that night, I was like, wherever my mind is, whatever my mental state next year, I'm going to be a part of it. And I'm so glad that we were able to get together and work as a team for it because it was.
Yeah, look at you now.
Yeah, it feels really good to like physically do something. Having done Militantly Mixed for all these years and only having a couple times being able to do something like in Meat Space, Jen and I did like a mixed people dinner once a couple years ago with some of the professionally mixed of Los Angeles. But we don't get a chance to do this very often. And it really felt good to like physically see each other and people at the fest. So what was everybody's like biggest excitement or takeaway or whatever you want to say about the fest?
This is a good question.
Joy.
I really like to see how many youth we had this year. I participated last year. I was so excited when Dr. Jen brought up the event and the fact that this year it was like a family friendly event made me so happy because I could see that there's going to be a generation that will grow up to be grounded in their mixedness, and that's what gives me hope for the future. We are a generation that still talk about boxes and where what we fit and if you are allowed to be one or the other, and events like this, seeing the kids being so confident in themselves and participating and talking about their experience that are the same as 60 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. What made me so happy, to be part of it and to be surrounded by so many mixed race people,
Yeah, those were some confident damn kids. Like,
Yeah.
the way they were grounded in their mixed identity, I was just looking at them and the cliche Whitney Houston song about the children being the future. I was like, oh, that's what it feels like when they're.
Yeah, but
so
you know what?
grounded.
I think it's a good point though, because I wonder, I could hear from some of the ways that they were answering questions, some of the teens, that I was like, oh, this is still a struggle you haven't quite resolved, but you're safe enough here
Yeah.
to talk about it in a way that you know the answer inside of yourself, but you might not always be able to assert it in your real life. I'm thinking of one of our guests on our panel. He was the youngest one actually on the panel. He was 14, and he shared, I don't know if y'all remember, but we were asking a question about, this very thing, choosing sides and all of that stuff. And he said, well, for him, it sort of comes out, his background in this need to choose comes out with sports because he's African-American, he's Filipino, he enjoys volleyball and he enjoys basketball, and all his friends are waiting, and he has Filipino friends and he has African-American friends, and they're always waiting for which sport he's going to choose. And he sort of was saying, like, sometimes I just want to play the sport. I don't want it to have to mean the group that I'm choosing that day. And so I like the way he said it, because it was like, he was sharing with us, isn't that the stupidest thing? Like, we all got it. What? Like, you're getting judged for freaking playing volleyball or basketball. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know if you found your answer. I don't know if you figured out how to confidently navigate that. Maybe he has, but it sounds like it's still an ongoing thing. But I was just happy that he could be there and there was no one in the audience that was like, well, you better do this and you look like that, so you better do, everybody was like, yeah, it's dumb, we get it, like that's, and he had some support there, I think.
Yeah, I do think that a lot of I think the safe space environment made probably the more confident moment, like, I can speak this, I can say this out loud without judgment. First of all, that kid's 14.
Yeah, he's tall.
He was like 6'8", wasn't he? Like 6'4". He was a heck of a tall kid. Man, tall Asians. I just want to say, as a mixed Japanese, that I'm personally offended by tall Asians. I don't know why I did that opinion. I'm really upset. No, I'm happy for them. I love that for them. That was amazing. And honestly, like that makes sense that stuff like that still happens. So people still have stereotypes that they're working with us from. And I think, as another Blasian too, I'm on the opposite scale of that. Like I'm a yellow facing one versus a brown or dark skinned one. And I do see with my Black Asian friends that are darker skinned, it's like, well, obviously you look Black. So just do that. Just do Black, you'll be fine. And it just completely erases everything else. So I'm glad that he brought that up. I'm also really impressed by how comfortable they were in that teen panel to talk. Like there wasn't a whole lot of hesitation. Mostly the hesitation was like, you could see them holding the mic and looking up like, like, how do I answer the question? Not that they didn't have an answer, which I thought was great.
I mean, I'll just jump in. I think that is a joyful sort of moment for me too. So just for the listeners, we had this panel discussion that was basically 90 minutes and nobody moved. And it was adults, like 5 mixed race
in the sun too.
In the sun.
Yeah, we didn't have shade in that spot.
Yeah, that was one thing we gotta work on. But it was lovely to be outdoors. But until you're like, oh, does this sun move? When is the sun moving? But we had 5 adults and we had 5 adolescents. I think the oldest one was 20 years old. And then some were still in high school. But we got to ask, here are these like common situations. And we were sort of looking at, has it really changed? You still go through these things. And, that was the interesting thing is like, we're still seeing the forced choice and the expectation of what group do you align yourself with? But I do think the difference that kind of stood out was that maybe there's just more permission / support for the younger folks. I think some of the adults were saying, I didn't really see the place to do it. I didn't have the opportunity. I knew I wanted to, but I didn't have the place to. And then the teens were like, yeah, I sort of am trying to because I know I can. Somehow there was a knowledge of like,
yeah,
I should be able to now. And, this is a limit that other people are putting on me and I know it's wrong. Whereas I don't know if the older adults always knew. It took them a while to be like, oh, you mean I don't have to, choose. So that was I think that was an exciting thing for me. And more specifically, we had a couple volunteers from an arts-focused high school out here in Southern California, and they were volunteering. And these were 2 friends, both mixed race of different backgrounds, but they started a club, mixed race student club at their school campus. And this was their first event in this kind of realm. And they were just raving all day. They were, they were the most volunteers we have ever seen because anything you needed, they were running and doing it, but they were just enthralled like every moment, every activity. So to me, that was a win and like a joyful moment for me because I'm like, that's kind of what I care about. Like those 2 are never going to leave the same and they're never going to give up in this club. They're going to be telling all their friends and their people, oh, you got to come to this thing. You got to like embrace this part of yourself because they got affirmed in a way that probably hasn't happened yet. So that was one example, but like all the different ways that guests were like, whether they were older or younger, just saying, wow, I've never felt like affirmed or safe in a space like this. I didn't even know this was a thing. I want to come again. I had a former student that came literally for probably like an hour because she wanted to come, but she just like that's all. I had to come down, but I had other things going on. And even for that hour, she was like, wow, this is amazing. So that was really great for me.
Yeah, to go off what Dr. Jen was saying, I would definitely say my favorite part was like individual conversations I had with people and that kind of collective feeling of like feeling seen and understood and craving this community, but not knowing you were craving this community until you were actually in it. And you're like, wait, this is what I've been wanting. I just didn't know it was accessible. I didn't even know that this was what I needed to like, to kind of like, to like, I don't know, to really make myself feel validated and seen. And so there were so many conversations that even regardless of the person's mix, there were just so many things that were overlapping in our experiences. And like you were saying with the teenagers talking about, trying to choose a sport because of like maybe how they present versus how they might feel. And like you said, to a lot of people, it's like, oh, it's just sports, like choose whatever you want. But there is this like push and pull feeling in a lot of these like nuanced decisions that mixed race people are always trying to make and trying to navigate. And I think, my favorite part was really the conversations and like how nuanced they were, and just how much commonality there was in a lot of our conversations.
Yeah, I feel like this was the physical embodiment of my experience of doing the show all these years. I've had all these conversations with mixed people from everywhere, all different kind of mixes, and there are themes across all of us. We come from different cultures, but isolation, if they're the only one in their family, never having a chance to see other mixed people, being around other mixed people, and then just the awe of like, I didn't know this was possible. Like I saw that happen there, and I have heard that happening throughout the years doing the show. So I will say it feels better in person. It feels better to see it in person.
And it's so cool because even though there's so many shared experiences, everyone has like such a fascinating different story also. So it's like everyone has a fascinating different story, but then we also have shared experiences, which is to me is so special. And I also just think that's like the epitome of empathy and just trying to understand people. So I love that. It was very soul nourishing. That's how I explained the event, soul nourishing.
Oh, yeah. I think that's so true. I think that piece of like, you can meet someone that on the surface, you're like, oh, your background is totally different languages, people, cultures, whatever. And then you still have moments where you're like, oh my God, me too. Oh, that happened to me. Oh, people think I'm whatever also too. That's the funny thing about it. So it really is a shared like worldwide experience that I still get amazed when I'm like, oh my gosh, I know nothing about whatever this country is, but we just had 3 Me Too moments,
My favorite is usually having to do with like, oh, I have a fried thing too, like a fried food thing. And they're all different fried foods, but it's like, oh, that's my version of it. And the ingredients are kind of the same. Yeah. But maybe the seasonings are different, but we're from like all over the world.
Exactly.
I know that's silly, but I did hear someone talk about fried food at the event, and they were talking about like lumpia. And then someone else was like, well, mine is kind of like a triangle,
I love that.
That was a cute moment. Why don't we actually run down the day so that everybody kind of knows what the experience was like, since it was different for any of the people who attended in first year than last year.
Yeah.
Jen?
Yeah, especially for people that came last year and people that are just listening, like, what was it like? I feel like we kind of just have to say, you roll up in this quiet like neighborhood where there's just a random little school, and then you go up these stairs, and then it's just like this open terrace, almost rooftopy vibes. And there was a lot of stuff happening there, but we also had school, like classroom, kind of situations. So the rundown of the day is you would come in, check in, and then we had different sessions in like our daytime portion of the event. So you could go to a session for the mixed race adults. You could go to a session for parents if you're a parent of a mixed race kid. And then we even broke it out by little children, which our Sarah was able to teach. And then we had teenagers who were led by Gucci, who is a comedian. Maybe we could talk about her later. I don't know, but
yeah, we got to talk about her. She's amazing.
Yeah. So that was sort of the morning. You had kind of a couple sessions where they had their own focused topics. And then we broke for lunch, where we had good old Chipotle. Everybody was, getting their favorite type of burrito and chilling and talking and mingling and taking photos, visiting different tables, getting interviewed. We had one podcaster, our Militantly Mixed podcast, collecting interviews, but we also had a documentarian there, Benji, who was collecting other people's, again, their stories and their experiences. And then we had the afternoon panel that I was just talking about with the adults and the teens. I'm not going to say old and young. And then we had a couple other little introductions of like Lee Painter Kim, who was explaining the food that they made for the evening, the Korean food. But then we switched into the entertainment portion, which that part, or the evening part of the event, which was very much like last year, where we had a comedian panel. This year we had like a showcase of comedians instead of one. Last year we had Keith Johnson. This year we had 3 comedians, Cam Gavinsky, Danica Lyle, and Tatiana Gucci. Well, she just goes by Gucci. And they did an amazing kind of, they each did a set, but it was just hilarious. Everybody was just dying laughing. And then we got to ask them questions, which I didn't do last year, but my nerdy self, I was like, I got to ask them some stuff about their material because
it was smart. I enjoyed that part of it too.
Oh, good. Because comedians, it's an art and they're thinking through their stuff and they're making commentary. So I wanted us to be able to talk about that. And then we switched to the short films. And this year we showed 4 short films. And then Charmaine led the talk back for that with some of the filmmakers who were present. So that's kind of the rundown of the day. And then after that, people just mingled, ate some more pizza, Korean food, and then kind of made their way on home. So let me know if I forgot anything, but I think that's a basic rundown.
No, I think that's pretty. Oh, there was the film that was playing all day. If people wanted to use it as sort of a quiet room or a rest room.
Yeah, that was Lisa Liang's film called Alien Citizen. And it's a film version of her one-person show, which is it's really like profound, but it's also very funny. And it's her story as not just a third culture kid, but also as a mixed race person who grew up in like 5 or 6 different countries. And so it's really great. And we just kind of looped that about 3 or 4 times over the day so that if people needed a break, they could go and still kind of take in some information, So yeah.
And then there was also the opportunity for a hair tutorial.
Oh yeah.
For parents to learn how to do their kids' hair, or I guess adults could sign up too to learn how to do their hair. I was asking Dr. Jen, I was like, what products do you use in your hair? So I could use a tutorial too.
You're so right. You know what? Like I was thinking about it later. I was like, dang, I should have really made it clear that anybody could have attended because this is a woman out of Chicago. Her name is Tamika. She has a company called Styles for Kids. And of course, she is teaching parents how to do their children's textured hair, but she could teach anyone, she literally has her own salon. But yeah, we had a time period where it was nothing else was going on. Well, there was other things going on, but if the parents needed to, they can escape and go take their tutored, learning session, which came with products and everything. It was really kind of a cool setup.
Yeah. In hindsight, I didn't actually even think to ask about adults, but it's one of the most common topics that we collectively talk about as well. I hear about it on the show a lot too. So maybe that's the thing put a pin in for next year.
Yeah.
An adult session and a parent session.
This is a really cool resource. I wouldn't have thought, it's funny because I wouldn't have thought to advertise it to adults either. But now that we're talking, it's like, hey, it could be for anyone, truly.
Yeah. Exactly.
We've had our struggles too. Like, I was thinking about it in terms of like a white mom to a mixed Black child and how often I saw the failure of the hair, out in the wild. But in this case, I think it could have been really a good thing for adults.
I think that's a really good secret we got to remember, because it's not just the white mom, it's any non-Black, non-Black or non-textured hair mom trying to do their textured hair kids, because they could be Asian, they could be Latinx. If they don't know how to deal with it, they're like, let me pull this back into some crazy ponytail, or I'm just gonna let it fly, and then it's all matted in the middle.
And honestly, dads too.
Yeah,
the dads, the load, like help split the load.
Oh my gosh, that's so. The dads need to be. I think. Dads
so we've accidentally started planning 2026 on this recording.
Okay, I'll stop there. But I was just going to say that the reason why we should include adults is because there are a bunch of us who grew up with the parents that never had the tutorial. Yeah. So then that means we had to figure it out on our own, or had to have friends and other people teach us. So at some point, I think there's a lot of mixed race adults that are like, can someone please help me? I'm still trying,
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to add another thing before you jump. I would like to add the boots. We had the mosaic with that little stickers and key holders, and a Militantly Mixed booth where people could share their experiences, their stories. And we had another booth with another lady. I think she had a book on being mixed Indian. If I can recall. So I think seeing that, especially because I was the one that was more in the white space for doing the music, having booths with representation or representative symbols like icons that are specific to the experience made me very happy to see. And I wish for next year and the years forward that more mixed race people with any type of business show up with a little thing and show what a person within their experience is bringing on to others and to share in their little booth during the festival. So it was really nice. I really like Mosaic. I had stuff from Mosaic last year, this year again. And I hope next time we have more books, more iconic things that talk about the mixed race experience.
Yeah, it's also an opportunity for people to kind of like learn whatever their entrepreneurial spirit, like they can incorporate their mixedness, which like Mosaic, the label, has done for a long time. The book you were mentioning, the woman you're mentioning is Putanita. She was there on behalf of her son, who is the mixed race person, who I guess edited the Mixed Desi book, which features Dr. Jen.
It doesn't feature me, but they did it.
You're in it.
I did my story, but it's her son Rahul and her did this together and collected a bunch of stories of all different backgrounds, but there's South Asian presence somewhere, in that story. And so it's, the only book of its kind. So she was very excited to be present and see all the different mixed South Asians who were present. So I agree with Joy. It's great to have. That was one of our monoracial parents who was there and, really trying to be supportive because she saw her own son's needs,
Yeah. Yeah, I did talk to her for a bit, and she did there was a moment where she was sort of marveling at like, man, you guys really need something. Like you need an event like this, and to see and be able to see it in action. Because it is, from what I've heard from parents sometimes, or from the child who said their parents have said things to them, a lot of times it's kind of like, I didn't even occur to me you were different. Like I'm thinking you're of me, so you have my experience. And that lack of mindfulness for people who have mixed children, and I can say I have two biracial parents, that lack was there as well. Whatever they weren't met with or taught when they were younger by their interracial parents, they didn't pass on to me. I had to figure all this shit out on my own. So I can't say enough how important these in-person opportunities are for us,
Yeah.
And of course we cannot forget the mingling. The mingling was in between every event, every space. There's always mingling, meeting other mixed race people. And the most fun of all was because there was a place where we were free to say, what's your mix? Where are your parents from? And was coming from the heart. So it was really nice that we were all relaxed and chill, talking about our background without any embarrassment, without like, I am a little bit of this. No, it's great. It's great. We could just express ourselves, talk about our different ancestry, different parts of ourselves without being judged, without being forced to choose, and to just express what we feel and how we go through the world and do things like anyone else.
Yeah. Sarah, did you have something?
Yeah. So I was just going to touch on what we were talking about with parents. Well, I actually had a friend too, where her kids are biracial. And so she's a white woman and the father, he's a black man. And so, but she is also a very vocal person. So she doesn't mind speaking up in situations. But she just wants to know what words to use, right? So like, so she's happy to speak up for her kids, and she's happy to say what needs to be said when there's like uncomfortable encounters, and giving them the resources and the language too. But she was saying that, you know, doing like the parent workshops, she was like, yeah, it was really helpful because I just got to hear like language and like tools that I can use to, you know, say things that are really advocating for my kids. So I think it's just so valuable. I think there's so many people, like parents included, that want these tools. They just don't even know how to go about it. So I think those sessions were so valuable. And also to kind of like piggyback off of what you said, Charmaine, like my parents too, their generation, also their upbringings are just like so different, and they're monoracial. But also like my mom is an immigrant from Ethiopia. She was an orphan in Ethiopia. Like her upbringing is so uniquely different from my upbringing. And although I think like my parents are very like open people, and they are just like truly like want to do what's best for their kids, I think they also just like you said, they had no idea that this conversation was even a thing, period. And I think just it never occurred to them because society has made it so taboo for so long. So now it's like just having these conversations, making it less taboo, is so helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The idea that to talk about our experience as mixed people, or to talk about race in general, was like not polite. And really, in like my lifetime, I would say that there were academics having this conversation, but there were so few of them. Like Naomi Mack is the only name I can think about from like the 90s or something. I mean, I know there's other people, but that for some reason that's like the only name that's popping up in my head. And so to take it out of academia, we're real life people. Like, you know, it's not going to be always the best resource for like the general everyday mixed person. So to be able to have these conversations now, to be able to have them with nuance and everything like that, is really important. Even when I started the show, we weren't doing it collectively. You know, I talk about it a lot. The Facebook had a couple of really problematic mixed groups. You know, like one was literally called Light Skin Better, like light skin is better. No. Yeah. And it was like mixed people, light skin is better. And then one of them was like mixed babies are the prettiest babies. And I joined them at first because I was trying to find people to talk to for the show. But then I would see the post and I'm like, I can't. And so I just had to get out of it. And so it was really tough in the beginning to like find people to talk. And then eventually people started finding me because people were looking for it. And I think Free to Be Fest is a version of that. Like people are looking for the opportunity to connect with other mixed people. You kind of hope they're kind of mixed like you, but you're like just as excited to meet someone who's not mixed like you, as long as they've had the experience, right?
That's true. I would like to add regarding to the mixed race experience is also the fact that Free to Be Fest brings mixedness wider experience, not only black and white. We are very, very used to the black and white, and then focus on the light skin, the mulatto, and all the mulatto tropes. So no, there's a lot of mixed race people or multi-ethnic people that they are the same race or the same skin color, but they have completely different experience that are actually part of what is the mixed race experience overall. So the fact that we can also have conversation where mixed race, being multiracial, biracial, is not uniquely to a European ancestry and African ancestry is very important. And the fact that not only white people or black people mixed, like you have completely different ethnicities and race or races, social constructs. It's something we have to remember, that are mixing with each other, and people still feel at odds. The more we have these conversations with honesty and without trying to flex something that is just the perpetuation of white supremacy ideology, I think will allow for this conversation to be less taboo.
the complexity of the mixed race experience, more and more people, I think that always happens, honestly, with mixed race folks. You get, for example, we had a family they were both monoracial, the same background, and their kids were transracially adopted out of another racial background. But somehow, I forget how they said they found the group or the fest itself, but they still, I mean, they were in the parent session and they were right there being able to use the same information. And so it wasn't like I had to be like, oh, let me somehow talk to you separately.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't be here. It was like, no. There is a shared experience that comes from a setup in society that, again, like Joy said, is all fueled by white supremacy. So everybody needs to challenge that in some way when we all get limited by it. So it's really great to see how many people are like, oh, I feel like that too, or I've had my own version of that. So yeah,
I think transracial adoptees are definitely a part of the mixed community, even if they are monoracial, because they're literally being brought up in a culture that is not theirs. I make room for that on the show as well. It's come up a couple times, and every now and then they are mixed and transracially adopted. But I think they're part of our story too. I think they need to be included in the community.
The transracial and the third culture kid, because sometimes we miss a lot the third culture kid, or people that seemingly are the same race, but they come from completely different ethnic backgrounds, and they still have the same experience patterns that the mixed race within the race category mixedness have. So I think the mixed race experience is so wide, and the festival is really open and welcoming for everyone, because we are all trying to have questions in this society that force us to be in one box.
Yeah. The Free to Be Fest being general mixedness, I think, was very important, because, there are events that are geared towards a specific mix on occasion, but, and those are great. I mean, I'm going to participate one in a couple of weeks and I'm really looking forward to it. Right. But to make space generally, I think also helps stop doing the work of white supremacy by saying like, oh, you actually have an issue that's similar to mine. I didn't even realize that, because we're not the same ethnicity or culture. But we get an opportunity to have those conversations at the fest. I want to roll back more towards some of the events that took place. And one of them was a panel, or two panels, right? We had improv. We had one for adults and one for younger folks too, I think.
Yeah, we had an improv for teens, and then we had improv for adults. I mean, I think, what were you going to say about it?
I mean, one, it was such a specific thing that like you wouldn't necessarily think I'm going to go to this festival that's about mixed race identity and experiences and culture and be like, hey, also we're going to do a little improv. Like it was such a fun little throw in.
Yes. And so that's how did it happen was I was already following Gucci on Instagram, and she posted that she basically down here in Leimert Park, she was having an improv, or she was a part of an improv show. So I was like, one, I want to go to this show. I want to see what it's about, because it seemed like predominantly African Americans doing improv, which I really hadn't seen. So I was like, okay, I got to go check this out. And it's in Leimert Park. But on top of it, I was like, I want to have a chance to talk with her. But during her intro, she was saying that night, she was like, I teach improv over here. I do this and that with improv over there. And I was like, oh my gosh, this will be perfect for the fest, because I didn't want mixed race folks to come to the event and feel lectured. I wanted them to be able to have a chance to explore and like be active and engage.
Whimsical.
Yeah. And have a chance to like touch parts of your identity. Maybe you just never had this way of like approaching it. And especially for youth, I knew that the teens are not really going to appreciate going to school again and being like, yes, I'm going to listen to this lecture and look at the slides. So when I talked to Gucci, I don't know exactly what happened in the improv thing because I wasn't there, but I know those teens came out of there. They were into it. They loved it. They went right into the adults and joined the adult improv, and the adults were kind of talking about it. Yeah. So it's like there was some way that they got to get in touch with this creative, childlike part of themselves. And to me, like I said, it's just like a little piece of healing for identity aspects that we don't get a chance to look at. So I was like, I got to do something different at the fest, because I just don't want us to intellectually talk about our identities. Even though we did that, I wanted there to be something else so that different things could come out.
Yeah. And as the festival grows over the years, there could be tracks that are more like, this is academic, this is experience, this is that, but not excluding whimsy going forward. Like always having that as an opportunity for folks, I think is important, because a lot of us exist in the hardship, right? You know, and this gave us an opportunity. We could talk about the hardship. We could show it in a film. We could, but we could be silly too. And I think that is, it was such a good idea.
I totally agree that just a sense of play is so healing. And I know Charmaine, I had talked to you at one point about this, where I just think like a sense of play for adults, especially, I mean, kids, it's almost like a given, but I think adults, it's almost like we're expected to be like serious in all these contexts. So I think just being able to play is so healing, and I really love that we have that element, and I loved that our workshops had different like vibes to it, so that it felt like very like holistic in a sense. So I'm excited to
about Gucci and the other comedians, because there were 3 total, and the 3 were so spot on, like so spot on. There was no one that couldn't laugh about what they brought in. They really made the comedy reflect the experience and not necessarily be the pains and the hurdles that were discussed. Dr. Jen opened panels in every stage of the day, but the fact that there was someone making us laugh like crazy with just that specific mixed race experience. Doesn't matter what is your background. There's that mixed race experience that most of us have to try to juggle and balance in our days.
You know, it's almost like we're not supposed to laugh at ourselves about things, but these 3, all different racial categories, cultural categories, they all came to specifically talk about their mixed race experience in a way that did, like you said, Joy, just spanned across all of us. And they couldn't be different, like couldn't be more different from each other. And yet that felt like one of the most gelled comedy sets that I've seen in a long time. It was so surprising.
Yeah, I think so. And I like the part, I kind of noticed that on some level, all 3 of them allowed us to laugh at the microaggressions and like ways that we get treated by society as well. So we could all be like, ha ha ha, yes, isn't that crazy how they do that, or think this thing about us and they're always so wrong. And it's like that was a unifying thing to be like, oh, you think that too? Me too. I hate when that happens.
Like a relief. Yeah, that you're like you're not the only person getting the microaggression.
Yeah. So I really like that part too.
That was fun. Let's wrap up by talking about the film festival too, I think. The film, like you said, we had 4 films, all different, like they come from all different perspectives, 100%. We started with Tamagoyaki, which was the short film. It was a Japanese-British film about love and food. And when I got to review them before, because I was forming the questions, I was crying. It wasn't meant to make you cry. No, but it was sweet, but I was crying because it was as close to something autobiographical as I've experienced. Like, I'm Black, Japanese, British, American. It didn't have the Black part, but it did have the Japanese, British part. And I've had that exact same conversation with my grandmother that Aya-chan had with her mother about love, because Japanese don't do that. We feed you. That's how, if you're not starving, you've been loved at. Like, that's basically how it is in the Japanese community. So it's so sweet, so thoughtfully constructed. And I really wish the filmmaker could have been there, but I've since chatted with her a little bit.
Oh, that's
the DMs.
great.
Yeah, I slid right into the DMs. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this was very personal and I loved it. And then we had the new night, which again, it was like you made a film festival for me, Jen, when you interacted with these people, because our next film was about a mixed race child that was really obsessed with Batman, and like him, I could get, understand. I got my sense of justice from comic books growing up and stuff like that. And this child had a negative racial experience because of his love of Batman, and then through his love of Batman and his brother, he learns how to still own his stuff. So like, yeah, it was like you created that just for me. It was I know it was completely accidental.
Film. Yes, and that film is not even available. So I love the exclusivity part about it, because you can't find it on YouTube or anything, that particular film. And the background of the film was also very important. Like, Steve Chen wanted to make it very clear that he wanted to represent families he doesn't always see. So there was a Black mother and an Asian father. And so that was very clear in the film. You see it throughout, and that's not something we often see in represented in films.
Yeah. I think the other part too, and Sarah mentions this in the episode we recorded early on about her experience last year. I don't want to talk for you, Sarah, but I do want to say, like, I want to drive home the point that you made. Is just like, you got to sit in a room with mixed people watching your film about mixedness, when up until that point you have just screened it with non-mixed audiences. And I imagine for all those filmmakers, like Sarah had said to me on the other episode, was that, like, that must have felt so good, like that must have felt so good to get a chance to see mixed faces.
Yeah, it's a really special experience. I think I use the word almost like sacred, because that's how it felt. It felt so special. And so I think whether you're someone that's there like teaching like one of the workshops, or you're one of the performers or one of the filmmakers, there's something that's, or an audience member, there's just something that's so validating, I think, for everyone who comes. And it's just like, it's very special.
Yeah. Now I got to switch gears and say, we have to talk about the short film Loving Day, which was done by Dale Kim. Yeah. And this was the only short film we showed that was basically like a horror film. Like, that's the closest
it was. Yeah.
Interracial.
Did you feel the silence? The silence when the movie was over? We could listen the wind, the breeze coming from the coast, because it was heavy. We were like, what if? And my experience also not only being mixed, but being in an interracial couple, because interracial couples are what make mixed babies. So the interracial couple is so important. That's why we celebrate as mixed people Loving Day so much, because it's interracial couples that bring us to the world and create all this conversation. And I could hear a pin drop after that movie. It was very intense and touched me very much.
Imagine having to get on afterwards and MC that moment. I was like, okay, I want to acknowledge the heaviness of this moment. I also want to bring levity, but I honestly don't remember how I got through that part. I do remember acknowledging the awkwardness at some point, though. I remember doing that.
Yeah, you did. I mean, and just for the listeners, because again, that's one you can't really watch at this point anyway. But the easiest way to say it is, it's a film about what could happen if they overturned the Loving versus Virginia case and made interracial marriage illegal again. And so that's why I said it's kind of like a horror film, because you're like, oh, wait, even though it's a film, some of that could actually
happen. Rings true, which is why it feels so frightening. Like, it's not a grotesque horror film. It's not like, bludgeony and da-da-da-da. It's not like that. But it's set in reality. And when you look at what's happening in our country and you look at what that happened in that film, you're just like, oh, shit.
It did touch a chord. It did touch a chord. And Charmaine, what you call it awkwardness was actually the movie message sitting in, causing you a moment of reflection, a moment of absorption and understanding the things that we take it for granted right now can fall in a blip. So was a moment of silence for deference of the message, because one of the things that were very important is seeing the one parts of the couple were monoracial, and they couldn't understand why, because that person was in their country, that person had their own protections, while the foreigner, the immigrant, the other partner from another race, from another country, had to that heaviness, that fear, that anxiety, and we all had to sit on that collectively in the movie, and that's why we couldn't even clap immediately, like at the end of every other movie. We were like just so ecstatic. I was like, what happened? Because the fear, the anxiety was there, so close to reality indeed, like Dr. Jen says.
So I'm the only one who got to look at everybody's faces, you know, unless you're sitting next to someone, they turn to you. There was just like, some people were just like frozen, eyes big, and some people like had their hands on their hearts, you know, because like you said, Joy, they were sitting in it. And I think it was an important moment. I also think ending on a comedy was important to like lift up at the end. But what I think is one of the biggest points about that movie, and I don't recall if I in the moment brought it up, but I think I did actually, the white partner to a foreign person or an immigrant person, whatever, being so inconsiderate of the fear that partner has is also very telling. And we don't have those conversations as often as we should be. And we should definitely be having those conversations with our partners if they are, you know, monoracial or super privileged in this particular case too. Because it just seems so real. Like, it just seems so real. There wasn't anything about it that felt like, oh, that would never happen, or that's outside of reality or something like that. It was very strong.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that we had to end on Wabi Sabi, which was done by Josephine Green Zhang. And that was a comedy about a mixed Asian girl feeling a little insecure about her own Asian, you know, specifically Japanese background, going on a date with someone that may or may not have been fetishizing her Asianness. And that was nice and funny and a great levity for the rest of the night.
And also, it felt very real too, even in the fantastical moments of that. Like, an Asian or a mixed Asian woman has dated that guy before. Like, they've definitely dated that guy that was obsessed with their culture. The twist, though, was that the guy grew up in Japan on the military base, and so like he did feel other. So if we're including transracial people, like he's not quite that, but he's kind of that, because
he's actually that, because he mentioned his stepmother. His stepmother was Japanese. So that was only one of the things that also shocked me, because the food and all the details that he was expressing was because he had a step parent. So basically transracial, kind of.
It was an interesting thing that I was not anticipating when I started to watch it. So when it popped up, I was just like, oh man, don't make me feel sympathy.
Right.
I want to wrap up with the idea of like, what are we all collectively looking forward to for next year? You know, we haven't necessarily started planning for 2026, but we're starting very soon. We've already shopped some ideas with each other, but if there's anything specifically that you're like really hoping to see or experience for next year, I would like to hear it. So who wants to go first?
Oh, I can wait. I can't wait. I already sit with Benji Rose, one of the videographers. We were fantasizing to the infinite and beyond. I'm so excited. And as I told at the beginning, I'm the vibes bringer. And I'm like, Dr. Jen, we got to do this with all these regional and international ideas. It's oh my gosh, I'm energized and electrified by the potential, the possibilities, and how many people came this year, and how I see each of one of those attendants bringing 5 more next year, and then we create this like a community that expands, and Los Angeles is gonna start to be too small to do it, and we gotta have to do it all over the United States, and then all over North America, and then we go to Brazil. I don't know. I'm so excited.
Joy's like, it's gonna be bigger than the Olympics.
Yeah. Everybody will know about it. Jen, what are you looking forward to?
I think I'm looking forward to definitely making the evening portion just that much bigger, because I was really excited that this year we had the comedy showcase, which I really enjoyed. And then, I think we had a different variety of films. And so I want to do more of that next year and make sure like the evening portion really gives kind of socializing / artsy vibes, and the chance to really kind of dig into your identity or your background in a way that you may not always do it. Like, again, through the comedy, being like, oh wow, I'm laughing, but also I'm laughing because I shared this experience, and wait, we're all laughing, so that means we all have this experience, but also I got a release, and I got a little bit of healing, and I enjoyed myself. That's what I like about it. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm definitely looking forward to improving on the programming for the daytime, because as you know, my own purpose is just making sure we increase representation, we really involve all the families, and really empower everyone that comes, so they leave and feel like, okay, I learned something, I can do something differently. Like Sarah was saying, I now have words I can use. I know how to resist and, fight back against this thing that we all have to experience all the time. I just want people to leave and be like, oh, okay, for real? I just spent this whole day at this thing. You can't say anything to me anymore. If I'm a teenager, I'm about to tell you off at school. If I'm a parent, I'm about to tell you, I'm about to shut you down. If I'm an adult, I'm going to speak up for myself. I got a t-shirt, I got a pin, I got something to put on my laptop. Like, leave me alone. That's what I wish. That's my real wish for next year.
And Jen, I don't know if you remember when you said one forms of multiracial resistance is like, if they are forcing us to only mark one box, we're gonna mark everything that is part of our background. We don't care. We mark all, and we add more if there's more. So they have to rethink if they want to really spend more paper for these ridiculous notions of race.
Right.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm really excited. Like Dr. Jen was talking about the programming, so I'm excited just to see what we come up with and like what ends up kind of coming to fruition. For me personally, I would love to kind of focus in my little corner of ideas, like some of the workshops around like play and healing. I'd love to see like what we come up with for those kind of workshops, and see what we have.
Making that a priority, I think, was something that I feel like I accidentally discovered at this year's fest, that feels like why didn't I think about play? So I agree with you. I'm excited because we deserve whimsy. Like, we're sitting in the hardship so often. We deserve play and rest and naps, stuff like that. Have a nap room next year.
I think we've alluded to. It's just, I think being mixed, there's a lot of being in between worlds and walking on eggshells and all this. And I think just like truly just like existing and releasing it all and just having fun is just so good.
I want to say one last thing. Again, I'm going to say these words before we get out of here. I am wearing the Free to Be Fest logo t-shirt, right? So many people said they were so glad it wasn't like the monochromatic skin tone logo, and that it was joyful, and that it's like, it makes me feel like I'm going to be at the beach that day. And the comments, like mostly the comments were just like, the logo's so happy, as if it was like a surprise. Like, we're not supposed to be happy, right?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know if you got as many of those as I heard, but at the fest, people were like, it's like sunny, it's been Friday, it makes you feel like you're gonna have fun today. And I thought that was like so part of what we were hoping to accomplish.
Yeah. That's definitely, I mean, I'm glad that I didn't hear any of that. So I'm so glad that you said that. But I'm glad that some people said that too, because that's always been some of my pet peeves when I see, because I've been in this space for a long time and working with the nonprofits, and we sort of see like little organizations or companies kind of try to pop up, and they always are pulling like the multi browns, like all the different colors of brown with like multiple hands interlocking. And I'm just like, ew, stop it. Like, it is not necessary to, and it's always some play on a word of like mixture and you know, whatever. So it's not, I'm not mad at it, but at the same time, you can only do that so many times. And that's why my interest is in more like, the whole goal for me is just feeling free. Like, I don't know if people couldn't see Sarah on the video, but she's kind of putting her arms up in the air. Like, it's like, that's
release.
Like, yeah, I could just be me. Like, leave me alone. I do feel beachy inside.
That was the vibe. That was the vibe at the fest.
Definitely. One of the things I heard is about the playlist and how many people were surprised that they were able to listen nonstop to mixed race artists.
Well, Charmaine, you can say what you're excited about. Even though I know, like a pastor, you keep saying, I know we gotta go, we gotta wrap up. But
I know, like, I can't help myself. I'm trying to be mindful of people's time, but also I realize that people don't like to listen to long podcasts. So I've been trying to actively shorten them. It's such a painful struggle for me because I want to talk. I want to let other people talk. And so, but I'm like trying to indicate I'm trying, y'all, but I can't do it. I can't stop talking or letting people talk. My thing, I think I would like to see track options for people that would like, to get something very specific out of it, where the evening, like you said, Jen, is more expanded and just about the fun and the playful. I mean, of course, we can't account for what films we might get next year and they might be serious, but I still think that collectively being able to watch those together makes it a good experience, makes it a positive experience too. So if we leave the heavy in the day, if people want to go down the heavy side, or if they want to go down improv and fun and stuff like that, whatever, like I like the opportunity for people to get to pick and choose how they would like to run their day. But getting into the night, I definitely think keeping multiple comedians really worked this year, and being able to see sets about mixedness and stuff like that was really good. The film festival, I really hope that we get so many submissions next year that we have to have like monthly events. not a whole Free to Be Fest every month, but like a special Free to Be Fest like film night, and we just show something or whatever. Like I kind of hope that we'll get an opportunity to see a lot more mixed content coming out of people knowing that this exists now. I think that would be really meaningful.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, now for real, as we wrap up, I normally ask everybody who's on my show what they love most about being mixed, but I'm going to end the show and try to be as brief as possible with asking the question, what do you love most about being an organizer of Free to Be Fest?
What I like the most is being the sauce, being the sauce, bringing the vibes, bringing the ambiance. I don't know. That's how I describe myself.
I love that the hand went far earlier than the...
a little bit of disabled representation because, ADA compliance is very important for us. We already include a lot in it's the default of being mixed, but hey, the disabled people need elevators and stuff like that. And I like
universal design, people.
Yes, absolutely. That's true. That's what I love. I love the idea that we can pick people that feel isolated and recreate a feeling of family gathering Saturday, like a particular type of cookout. I remember during lunchtime, I felt like I was in a family lunch, and I didn't need to choose sides or to switch code a little bit to adapt. No, we were just chilling. It was really, really fun. That's what I want to keep bringing, just for existing there and help Jen, you, Sarah, to get the next year's bigger and better.
Yeah. What I really loved about what I love about being an organizer is like not only feeling validated and seen at the festival as an attendee, but also just in our team. Like there's so much that I can just feel that we just get, that like it hasn't even, I don't even, there's stuff that I feel like I might feel the need to like explain a little more in like most, whether it's like a work environment or organizing something with people of different backgrounds. But in this space of us organizing together, there's just been this level of like understanding and like ease in the sense of like, in the sense of knowing what we're trying to plan and having similar intention. That's just been so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say that's my favorite thing about being an organizer is just feeling energized and inspired by all of you when we do meet and talk and even maybe start to dream a little bit, and you know, someone has an expertise in some area. So I always leave feeling energized and motivated and, you know, seen and all the stuff. So I really enjoy that part.
For me, I think it is just like I kind of said earlier, when I started Militantly Mixed, I was trying to collect mixed people and mixed stories. I had a very mixed childhood, and then I became an adult, and I was like, where are all the mixed people? So I used the show as a way to make friends, mixed friends. But I really wanted to translate this into like a physical space, an opportunity to do events. And, you know, I've never really had like the time or the resources, honestly. I either worked full time or whatever the reasons were, plus COVID happened, and I just never really tried to get it together. When you presented this opportunity, Jen, it was like finally the thing that was in my head, I'll get to experience now. You know, I'll get to be able to be around people that are mixed, that are also coming in going like, I don't get to do this, you know. So what I love most about being on the organizing team this year was that I was a part of giving that experience to people, you know, with all of the work that we put in. You know, there was something each one of us did that had an impact on somebody, whether they told us or not. And I mean, when your event is trying to end and it's not quite ending, to me, I mean, we experienced that the first year and we had a version of that this year as well. I think it just, yeah, it just makes it, yeah, it's just one of those things like finally I get to be a part of something in meat space with other mixed people, and everybody seemed to mostly have a good experience. I didn't hear any complaints outside of like, it's a little hot out here, you know, like, and we were all hot, but but that was pretty like, I didn't hear anything necessarily negative. It was just like, you know, I'm gonna stand in this shade for a minute and then I'll go back to my chair, you know, like it was a lot of just people rolling with that challenge of the sun, but it was just positive all the way around. So I would like to thank you all for working as a team together, that I got to be amongst this team, that we were so understanding of each other and worked with things. It was like, I mean, I'm sure all of us have experienced a group activity that was awful. And this was not that, you know, like we got to be, free. We got to be free with each other, and we got to put on an event that felt free as well. So I'm just grateful to all of you for allowing me to share space with you for this. This was so important and special, especially after the last year and a half I've had. You know, it was such a good thing to have. I just want you to keep in mind that Free to Be Fest is an annual event. We are coming back on September 19th. We've already decided, so mark your calendars for that. We are going to be in LA again this coming year, but there is a future in which we are going to try to pick other cities. We just need to develop here for a little while. So mark your calendars, Los Angeles, California, September 19th, 2026. And in the meantime, if there is a suggestion that you might have of something you would like to see or experience at the event, holla at your team, because we are going to think about all the things that people submit, and you can send your ideas to freetobefest.org@gmail.com. And if you just want to say how you felt at the festival or what you would like to get out of a festival, if you want to pitch an idea or say you've got a film in motion or something like that, just let us know. And as we go through the year, we will be collecting these ideas and incorporating the ones that make sense. Right?
Yes, definitely. We want to hear from the people we want to serve. So encourage everybody to give their ideas and share your needs so that we can plan the programming around, oh, wow, look at all these families. They see they want to learn this, that, or the other, or these adults want to talk about this topic. Boom, we're going to make it happen, you know?
Yeah.
If you want to see it, we're here to make it happen. So.
And on that note, y'all, please be your mixed ass selves out there and feel free to be.
Militantly Mixed is a Main Hustle Media podcast, produced and hosted by me, Charmaine Fury. Music is by David Bogan, The One. You can follow us on social media on Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Militantly Mixed. If you'd like to become a sponsor of Militantly Mixed or any Main Hustle Media shows, please go to patreon.com/Charmaine Fury for a monthly sponsorship or to paypal.me/militantlymixed for a one-time only donation. And if you like what you hear on Militantly Mixed, please subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to be your mixed ass selves. Peace, y'all.
Main Hustle Media. Turn your side hustle into your main hustle.